Welcome back, dear viewers. You are still watching Nile Cruise, and in this segment of our program, we are going to talk about the historical ties that bind Egypt with African countries, as Egypt this year is assuming the presidency of the African Union. And to know more about these historical ties, we are joined today by Mr. Ismail Hamid. He's a historian and writer. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you.
So,
Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
Muhammad, please.
Yeah, please go ahead, Shireen.
Let's start with the Nile River and what it symbolizes for Egyptians.
Yeah, sure. The Nile is a great tie that connecting Egypt with Africa, especially with the value of this Nile from the Pharaonic time. It's considered to be, if we say basically that Herodotus said that Egypt is the gift of the Nile.
Yeah.
So we know that all the great civilization in history, they are related to a river. That river gave the people and the nations the stability, okay? Because before that, Egyptians or the ancient Egyptians, they were spreading on the desert. They have no stability in their life. They were just hunters. But with the Nile, so it gave them the stability.
Yes.
That's in order to have a main source for the water, not just to look for shafts and springs, no. It became very stable for them. So we started to build houses and also to know and to recognize the agriculture, okay? So these houses, they became,
civilization.
yeah, and then the houses became villages, and then became more grower, and then cities, provinces, and then the civilization started greatly thank you to the Nile. So that is a very great value for the Nile, for Egypt, and even also for the whole African continent. Especially that we talk about the longest river of the world, longest, 6,700 kilometers long, came, as we know, that from two main sources. The main one, the Ethiopian source, okay, that is giving the Nile about 85% of the water, came from the Ethiopian source, and by the small branch that we call it the Blue Nile. And then the second source of the Nile, that is the Great Lakes, especially Lake of Victoria, and that is giving Egypt or the whole Nile 15% of the water, by a small branch, the White Nile. So both of them, they are connecting in Khartoum, and they are crossing in Sudan.
Yes.
And then the Nile became one branch from Khartoum till the north. And then the Nile is running in 11 countries. So it's very extending river, okay? 11 countries from Congo to Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and then South Sudan, North Sudan, and then Egypt. Very extending river, and connecting all these countries in one basin that we call it the basin of the Nile. So also we have also a regional organization that collecting countries in one organization. We call it the Ndugu, that is for the whole countries of the basin of the Nile. Nile is a great value, a great symbol for Egypt, for Africa, and for everything, because we talk about the cradle of civilization that started in Africa thanks to the Nile. So the Nile, and I think we can appreciate the value of the Nile from the holy books, from the Torah, from even the Gospel and on the Quran. We have great symbol for the Nile.
Yes.
For Torah, for example, calling the Nile as the river of Egypt.
Yes.
Even that is not starting from Egypt, but it is the river of Egypt. Nilu Misr, or the Nile of Egypt. So it is related.
I guess, Mr. Hamid, you're talking now about some things that prove Egypt's historical rights and the waters of the Nile.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So we have great proofs. We don't need even to have proofs. That is, that is a fact, and something that you cannot deny or to argue about that. As I said that from the holy books, as I said for this, the Nile of Egypt, Nilu Misr, okay? So also it is considered to be a holy river, because the story of the Holy Family, when came to Egypt, they used the Nile mainly to move from a point to another. And even the area of Maadi, not far from here. Why it's called Maadi? Because when they left the old Cairo, whereas the crypt of the Holy Family, that is very well known, so they used a ferry, Nile ferry, that's called the Ma'adiyya. So they use it to cross the Nile to the other side. So they call it Ma'adi, thank you to this. So after that also they used the Nile to go to the south of Egypt till they went to Asyut. Okay. Also in the holy books of the Nile, it was the river that saved the Moses, okay, from the death. Because Pharaoh, when he sent the soldiers, so his mother, she put Moses on a cradle and then she put the cradle on the Nile. So the Nile became as a symbol of protection for the prophets, from Moses to Jesus himself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the Quran as well.
That is what I'm going to talk about. In Islam, the Nile is considered to be a holy river. That is, a river came from paradise. Prophet Muhammad, in the Sahih tradition, or Sahih Hadith Sahih, that is mentioned in Al-Bukhari and Muslim, when he had his miracle and he went to heaven, he said that I saw some sign for the peoples of paradise, and I saw 4 rivers. 2 of them, their origins from the paradise. 2 rivers, the Nile and Euphrates in Iraq. Okay. Also from the tradition of the supplications of Prophet Noah, peace be upon him. When his grandson is called the Misraim, the grandfather of Egyptians, Misraim, son of Ham, son of Noah, when he wanted to come to Egypt, he asked his grandfather to supplicate and to pray to him, okay, to give him blessing. He said what? Allahumma, I said this in Arabic because that translation is so hard.
Yeah.
So, Allahumma barik fihi wa fi zuriyatuh wa askinhu al-ard al-mubarakah, Ard Misr, the land of Egypt, the blessed land, التي هي أم البلاد, that is the mother of the world, and that is the origin of that tradition of mother of the world, that is from the dua or the tradition supplication of Noah, peace be upon him. اللهم بارك فيه وفي ذريته واسكنوا الأرض المباركة التي هي أم البلاد وغوث العباد واجعل نهرها أفضل أنهار الدنيا. That is, may God make the Nile and the river of Egypt to be the most blessed and the most pure and the most holy river in the world. So the Nile, that is a great story and a great thing.
Sir, this takes us to the historic evidence that prove the right of Egypt to the Nile River.
I think we can move to historical events.
Yes.
Okay, where the arguments that we have now about the dams of Ethiopia and so on. Surely that in historical events we have lots of agreements, okay, between Egypt and Ethiopia and with the rest of the countries of the Nile about how to benefit of the Nile, and also the rights of every member of the Nile basin, and also for not to make a problem for other countries. All the agreements, their basics for not to harm or to make a problem for any other member, okay? And also, if you would like to make any project, also you should ask the other members to get their approval about this or not. So we have this from the 19th century, and also during the 20th century we have lots of agreements. Yes, Egypt at that time was during the royal family, and also the British, they had a control of Egypt, but all these agreements, they were approved and they were also considered to be legal agreements by United Nations. All the agreements, even before the independence, they were considered as legal agreements between all the members. So we have lots of rights, historically and according to the Holy Books, according to even all things, okay?
Yes.
And in the end, we share one common future, one common destiny.
Yes.
And we should all use it for our benefit, for the benefit of all of us.
Yes.
And we can all benefit each other.
The problem of the Nile, and even for Ethiopia, that Ethiopia is turned by another powers, okay, and controlled by another power, okay, that they would like to, you know, abuse Egypt and blackmail Egypt by indirect way. And we know all these stories, and I have lots of articles that they are published, okay, and they talk about the origin and the historical relation between Ethiopia and Israel. They say what? The Ethiopian, they said that even in their constitution, they are descendants of the king Menelik, son of Solomon, son of David, son or the king of Israel. They are proud of this origin, that they say that they are descendants of the king of Israel. Also Menelik himself, that he's considered to be the first king in Ethiopian history, he was crowned in Jerusalem according to their tradition, and then he went to Ethiopia and became the king, and Ethiopia at that time became as a Jewish country. We have lots of things that,
in all cases, of course, what everybody wishes for in our beautiful continent is a solution that would benefit all of us.
Yes.
And would make all of us prosperous.
Yes, sure.
And happy. Sir, the Egyptian African relations have had their ups, many ups, but have had some downs as well. Especially maybe in the years before the 2011 revolution. So talk to us about the peaks. Maybe the peak was during other times. You talk to us, sir.
Yes, I think the first relation that we can talk about between Egypt and a link in history, that's from the 5th dynasty of the pharaohs. During the time of a king is called Sahura, that he sent a float, Egyptian float, to the land or to the African coast. That is to explore that. Also from the 6th dynasty, we have an Egyptian explorer, he's called Harkhuf, that he would like to explore the sources of the Nile. You imagine this? From 2400 BC, we had an Egyptian explorer that he went to the sources of the Nile to explore where the origin of the Nile. From that old time, 4,400 years ago. From the time of the king Senusert III,
yes,
that is from the 12th dynasty, nearly 2000 BC, he had a campaign to the land of Nubia. So Nubia, that is a part in Egypt and another part in Sudan. So we have, that is the land. So it's considered to be the gate for Egypt for the whole continent. And Nubia started from Aswan till Khartoum. That is the land of Nubia. So he went to Nubia at that time. So it was the first time for the exploration by the Egyptian kings, that is for the land of Sudan at that time. Okay? And during the 18th dynasty, the Queen Hatshepsut, she sent also another commercial float to the land of Punt. The land of Punt now, that is the African Horn, that is Somalia,
yes,
and that is the land of Somalia, Djibouti, and that is to the south of the Red Sea. Okay, so it was to exchange merchandise and commerce and lots of things between Egypt and these countries. Okay, also from the time of the king Ramesses II, that he built his great temple of Abu Simbel in Nubia, the land of Nubia, a temple for him and a temple for his favorite queen, the Queen Nefertari.
Yes.
Okay. Also, the land of Nubia was considered to be the land of gold. So Egyptian pharaohs, they sent also the workmen to exploit this. So you know, As-Sukkari, it is in the land of Nubia. That is a part of the land of Nubia. So it's very rich of this. Across the history, after that, the time of the pharaohs till the Islamic time, we had great relations when the land of Sudan and then all the countries south of Sahara, they became as Muslim countries until the time of 1952, when Egypt, surely that Egypt helped most of the African countries to get their independence, okay, after the 1952. So we had great relations between Egypt and Africa across the history.
And they are coming back?
Yeah, sure. We hope so.
So in your opinion, what are the historic moments that marked the peak of African-Egyptian relations?
You know, we have a peak during Islamic time that we should insist about. That is the link of Al-Azhar.
Yes.
Okay? That's not from the time after 1952. No, Al-Azhar, when the trip of pilgrimage, you know that all the pilgrims came from Africa, especially from south of Sahara.
They have to cross
They
Egypt
should
before, yeah.
come by the commercial road. We have different roads. At the end, they should come to Egypt. We have a route started from Fes or Marrakesh to the south. or vice versa, from the south to Marrakesh and to Fez, and then they should cross the Sahara or to get the Mediterranean Sea to go to Alexandria and then to Egypt or to Cairo, to Al-Fustat, in order to wait the Egyptian convoy, okay, in order to go to Mecca. Also, we have another road from the south till Tilmisan in Algeria. We have another road also started even from Tunisia till the south, or from the south till Tunisia. We have a road from Tripoli and Libya. We have also Darb al-Arba'in from Egypt also that was used in order to connect Egypt between the middle African countries, Chad, and then to the west, or vice versa, to come or to come by this way in order to go to pilgrimage. So these should wait for that. At that time, lots of them, they come 2 or 3 months before the pilgrimage. They went to Al-Azhar in order to study. So with the bigger number that we have of this time, we started to have lots of riwaq for the African peoples. And for every African nation, we have a riwaq. We have the riwaq at-takrur. Riwaq, it means that, you know, a pillar or a special place for the students of this nation. From at-takrur, at-takrur, it means the people of the west of Africa. Okay, Mali, Ghana, and Nigeria. Okay, that is, and Senegal. That is the riwaq of Takrur. We have also the riwaq of Al-Kanem. That is also for the peoples came from Chad, because Al-Kanem was a great empire in Chad. We have also riwaq Sinar. Sinar, that is of Al-Fung. Al-Fung, that is a kingdom that founded in Sudan. We have riwaq Al-Gabartiya, that is from Gibrit. Gibrit, that is the family of Al-Gabarti. Okay, originally they came from the African Horn. Also, we have bigger number of them. And even with now, in our time, we have Bulaq al-Takrur. Al-Takrur or Dakrur. Dakrur, that is Takrur. It means that is for the people of Mali, Senegal, and all these, because we had a great number of them that they lived there. So they, the district itself became with their name, because that is the district of the Takrur of this time, and then with the time it became Dakrur, but originally that is for a Takrur.
Yes,
great links.
Mr. Ismail
It's such a
Hamid.
joy listening to you, really.
We'd like to thank you, Mr. Ismail Hamid, historian and writer. Thank you for being with us today.
Very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Dear viewers, Shireen and I will be back on another topic of Nile Cruise here from Al Ministerial Palace in Manial, in the heart of Cairo. Please stay with us.